Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. So today we're doing something really cool. We are taking that sheer, completely overwhelming anxiety of receiving an IRS letter and we're transforming it into a totally manageable action plan. And we're doing it using a brilliant step-by-step prompt framework. It's really designed to help a colleague, or, honestly, even yourself, methodically gather the right information while actively dialing down that unnecessary panic. Okay, let's dive right into this.
Think about it for a second. What is your very first reaction when you check the mail and you see that official, scary-looking envelope from the Internal Revenue Service? If you're like most of us, your heart rate instantly spikes, your palms get a little sweaty, and literally a million terrible scenarios race through your mind all at once. Am I being audited? Do I owe thousands of dollars? Wait, am I in actual legal trouble? It's just this instant, blinding jolt of panic that completely shuts down your ability to think logically.
So, let's start with Section 1. Don't panic about the IRS.
Now, this prompt framework we're looking at is basically the ultimate de-escalation tool, mainly because it tackles that initial panic head-on and forces a pause. It reminds us to just take a deep breath. An IRS notice is usually just about resolving a tax issue. It is not a criminal matter. Establishing this baseline of calm is absolutely crucial. It's the foundation for everything else in this process. You're taking a scary unknown and turning it into a manageable routine.
Moving right along to Section 2, Decoding the IRS Notice.
Okay, so to actually start decoding things, the prompt instructs you to first upload every single page of the complete IRS notice. You can't fix what you can't see. Once you've got the full document in front of you, it asks these really empowering questions to systematically decode it. First off, what does the notice actually mean? And does the IRS even appear to be correct? Because sometimes they make mistakes. Then you want to figure out how the amount was calculated, like breaking down the actual tax versus the penalties and the interest. You're looking for errors or ways to dispute and maybe reduce the amount. But on the flip side, if you actually agree with the notice, it prompts you to explore your options. Specifically, do you qualify for penalty relief or maybe a payment plan? And finally, and this is definitely the most critical piece of data, what are the actual deadlines you need to know about? By just running through this checklist, you strip the mystery completely out of the letter.
Next up, Section 3, Gathering Essential Tax Context.
So you've decoded the notice itself, but now you kind of need the background story. And the real brilliance here isn't just the data it asks for, it's the execution. To keep from overwhelming the taxpayer, the framework says to ask these background questions one at a time. Step 1, identify the tax year involved. Step 2, locate the specific notice number. Step 3, confirm that the return was filed on time. And Step 4, note whether a tax professional was used or if it was self-prepared. By pacing the questions out like this, you maintain that calm environment we worked so hard to establish at the very beginning.
Now, part of gathering that context involves verifying exactly where the money came from for that specific year. We're talking W-2s, 1099s, self-employment income, investments, retirement distributions, basically the whole shebang. This is so important because a lot of the time IRS notices are triggered by a simple mismatch between what was reported on these forms and what was actually put on the tax return.
Finally, to get a completely clear picture of the history, we need to know, have you received any previous IRS notices? This just establishes if we're dealing with an isolated incident or an ongoing issue. And do you have a copy of the return you actually filed? You really need to compare the new notice against that filed return so you have a complete understanding of the taxpayer's history before you take any action.
Which brings us to Section 4, focusing on practical steps.
This phase, it is a total paradigm shift. The framework sets a strict, non-negotiable rule for how all this gathered data is communicated back to the anxious colleague. Absolutely no confusing tax jargon. None. Everything has to be explained in plain English, keeping things calm and reassuring. Because of this, we move completely away from that paralyzing fear of imagining worst-case scenarios, and we step right into actionable momentum, practical next steps. It takes all that chaotic energy, organizes it, decodes the notice, gathers the context, and smoothly pushes the taxpayer toward a clear, easy-to-follow plan.
So that brings us to our final thought for today's Explainer. Next time an IRS notice shows up in the mail, will you panic or will you plan? This structured step-by-step approach we walked through today proves that you really can diffuse tax anxiety. By asking the right questions one at a time and focusing on plain English solutions, you can conquer any notice that comes your way. Thanks so much for joining me for this Explainer, and remember, take a deep breath. You've got a plan for this now.